Upgrade is a new sci-fi action thriller produced by the same people that gave you Get Out and Happy Death Day, and, you know, it's a Blumhouse film. This movie was directed by Lee Wannell, or Winnell, I'm not entirely sure how to say it, and it stars Logan Marshall Green as a mechanic, a very happy engineer who has a beautiful wife, beautiful life. One day, a terrible mugging / accident happens, and his wife ends up dead, and he ends up paralyzed. Just when he's about to give up on life, there's a brilliant inventor that comes to him and is like, hey, I have a way where you could possibly walk again. This way that he could walk again is something called STEM. STEM is this big, huge artificial intelligence chip that's inserted into his spine and helps him walk again. It doesn't just help him walk again. This artificial intelligence has access to all of his motor functions, all of his limbs, and it basically can help him not only walk, but run and fight and do a whole bunch of crazy shit. This artificial intelligence can speak to him inside of his head. And so Gray has to try to figure out who killed his wife, and he has to figure out why all of this is happening in the first place. I saw the trailer for this movie. I immediately thought, okay, that looks really familiar, but it looks really, really fun. I went to go see the movie, and I gotta say, the movie is pretty much exactly the way the trailer portrayed it as. It is really, really familiar, but it is really, really fun. I had a damn good time watching this movie, despite the fact that I have seen this movie about 1,000 times or so. Come on, we've all seen that movie. We've seen a guy who gets into an accident, or not even a guy, sometimes it's a woman. You've seen the movie The Brave One? Yeah, that movie with Jodie Foster from a few years ago where she was beaten and her husband was killed, or her fiance or whatever was killed. She turned into a vigilante and took things into her own hands. Yeah, we've all seen that revenge tale of something bad happening to the protagonist or the protagonist's special somebody, and then they have to go out on a path of revenge. We've also seen movies where people are in really bad shape and then something mechanical or wondrous comes along and it helps them regain what they lost. If I could just paint you a picture of what this movie actually is, it's kind of like a really violent, bloody version of RoboCop meets Taken. That's what it felt like anyways. This movie is sci-fi, so it's set in the future, and there is some really cool technology and world building that's going on, but really at its core, this is a revenge movie about a guy who gets a very special artificial intelligence inserted into his life, and his communications with this thing enable him to evolve and grow and get stronger, and he's able to do a whole bunch of really crazy off-the-wall shit, like beating people's brains in with his bare hands. From that standpoint, I'd say that this movie definitely succeeded. The fight choreography and the action sequences in this movie, that's what you go for. That's what you go for. This movie delivers on that front in spades. The fight choreography is simultaneously robotic, but at the same time fluid. It makes sense that the action scenes would feel a little bit robotic because he does have this supercomputer inside of his body and his mind, basically controlling his movements and telling him how to do certain things. And so a supercomputer probably would move a little bit more robotic. It would move mechanically. It wouldn't move like a normal human would. At the same time, there's something really smooth about the way that they filmed the fight choreography, the hand-to-hand shit in this movie. It's very much in camera, it's very violent, it's very graphic, it's very brutal, it's very real. Yeah, for anybody that was thinking, oh, okay, they're just gonna show a few cool, cute little action scenes. No. It gets very bloody, it gets very gory in this movie. Fair warning in case you were planning on taking your kids out to see this thing. I'll also say that Logan Marshall Green did a pretty decent job as the protagonist of this film. He wasn't spectacular or great or anything, but I did care about his character. I did like his character. He did bring sort of an everyman quality to his character. And the performances of everybody else in the film also are reflective of the performance of the main protagonist. Everybody gives a very solid, workmanlike, everyman type of effort. This movie also does have some interesting things to say about control and about technology and about visual reality versus actual reality. It doesn't really touch on any of those things in depth. It kind of skims the surface and just gets right to the action. But I gotta say, it is there. This movie almost was great. It almost got to that place where I'm like, okay, Superman Prime, it's coming right at you. Instead, there are a couple of issues that knock this movie down a little bit for me, and I gotta address them here. For one thing, there are a couple of leaps in logic in the screenplay that don't really make a lot of sense to me. Certain things happen where I'm just kind of like, that doesn't seem like it normally would happen. And then there's a villain in this movie where he has this weird ability that I'm not going to spoil here, but it's kind of ridiculous and doesn't make a lot of sense, and you go with it because movie, but I'm just saying, it's kind of silly. I wish they would have explained that a little bit better. And then we get to my biggest issue with the film, which is actually the way that the film ended. There's a twist that happens in the final act of this movie. There's something that happens during the climax that changes everything that you thought you knew about where the movie was going to end up. And for me personally, no spoilers, it didn't really stick the landing for me. I didn't really feel that invested in what happened at the end, because what happened at the end seemed to break the technicalities and the rules that were established in the movie beforehand. In other words, this twist happens, and then I couldn't help but go back to other shit that happened earlier in the movie and be like, wait, if it happened this way in the final act, then why did this happen earlier? And how does that make sense earlier with this going on right now. So in the end, I feel like they failed to establish clear guidelines and rules and boundaries for the logic that they were trying to present to you in the final act, and I just didn't really feel all that invested in it. In fact, it feels a little convoluted, and it kind of makes the entire movie collapse a little bit. I really, really enjoyed this movie as a straight-up sci-fi action thriller. It takes an old and tired concept that you've seen before, it puts it in a futuristic world, it gives you badass action and likable characters. The movie's not gonna knock anybody's socks off, I don't think, but I think that most people are gonna have a really fun time watching this. I know I did. Upgrade is going to get the upgraded version of the Man of Steel rating. Put it in the Silver Age. Alright guys, those are my thoughts on Upgrade. So tell me, have you seen it? Are you going out to see it? And what are your thoughts on the film if you have seen it? Please comment below and let me know. And as always, if you like what you see, tell me how you feel. Stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace.